All right. Good morning, everybody. Looks like we are all set and good to go. So, welcome to another Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared. This is August 2nd, 2022. And happy Tuesday to everybody who's joining us. As we can see, markets yesterday, a bit of a stall type of day. Overall trade was mostly captured within the previous Friday session. And we can somewhat sense that there's a little bit of an overextension in the market. Um, whether you're using tools like moving averages, whether you're looking to the left and noticing that the market is hitting some pretty strong balance type resistance, and some of the behavior of the stocks that we trade yesterday, a lot of them were either pulling back in or having a little bit of a moment of rest. And this morning, as we are opening with a gap down open, this concept of the market's ability to pivot around certain key levels can obviously give us a little bit of a clue as to the next session's trade, especially when we're in certain conditions in the market. So let's take a look at the S&P's location. Let's talk about some possible setups that are going to be coming in the future, and obviously what's going to drive some of this price activity. So first things first, the S&Ps are still within their daily uptrend. And whenever you have a structured uptrend, you often want to be looking for elements that can give you a clue as to whether or not the trend is pivoting, possibly pulling back, along with whether the trend is still intact. And usually a lot of traders will use different techniques to kind of get a sense of that behavior. One of the simplest techniques for a trend is obviously the trusty trend line. And usually what you're going to see is on structured uptrends and downtrends, pullbacks will often lead you to this area of the market, albeit not every pullback has to be a pullback over price. And when we look at the S&Ps right now, it's important to note what we're so far looking to stall against. And it's this area of previous balance. I've kind of marked the low end as it was established back in early June. What's important about these concepts are we did have an uptrend to get into this area. And obviously the fear is that the market will do something similar to what we saw back in June, where after this moment of balance, we got certain bits of data and the market obviously fell quite precipitously to the downside. That is certainly something you can prepare for and obviously place trade for. But at this time, there's no indication that that's the most likely scenario. We're still fairly elevated, and yet any pullback at this point would be looked at as a possible buying opportunity for this time. When we shift over to the hourly, we can also see a little bit of context as to how far can a pullback go. And what this does is it gives us a sense of some possible pullback targets. Now, obviously, there is some structured support as we are pulling back into this balance range. This area of support can actually last for quite a while. The market can trade between the lows and the highs, very similar to what we saw in June. So be prepared for that type of trade because technically we are in the same location. But if the market does decide to pull back in price, our trend line gives us a sense of what sort of downside targets we should be looking at. And one of the simple moving averages here, the 200 on the hourly, is a great guide because our last swing low actually brought us to the 200. It's a bit anchored in regards to where do pullbacks want to potentially be considered for dip buys. And when we look at all of this from the context of the current trend, it kind of makes sense to be a little cautious as a bull in this location. First things first, the downside risk is still a bit high, even when buying into an extension of a trend. You often don't want to be buying too high because trends can change at any extension. And usually when the trend changes on the final extension, that is, of course, one of the worst times to be net long or net short, because you're getting into more of a reversal on different time frames. We can also just pull out our Fib tool. And as with most Fib considerations, it's important to know where you anchor this particular high to low, specifically because this trend is different than the one we came from. It's different than the absolute low of the S&Ps. So while you could be looking for something like a weekly bounce to possibly pull back into maybe sub 400 prices, that would bring you to the 38.2 extension. That is not really what you should be looking for in regards to the trend pullback. And once again, it would still bring us slightly under sub 400, but a pullback to that area would be very healthy for this structure, and especially if we were considering continuation in the market. So these downside areas are areas of interest, but as I mentioned, first things first, we're in this balance range. And whenever you're in these areas, you often want to be looking at volume profile as well to get a clue as to how strong this value node happens to be. I'm going to go ahead and bring it just to a 90-day. And the reason being is I've reduced a little bit of the data, especially to the upside, closer to previous highs. And what you'll notice here is that the market had established a very strong VPOC in this area. Kind of makes sense. We spent about 7 to 8 days trading between about 407 in the S&Ps to a high of about 418. So this overall area has high transactional value, at least historically it does. And getting through this area, especially on the first attempt, is technically a very low probability event. We're often going to have to trade through it once again. We might even pull back in, hence why we're looking at some of those pullback targets for the current trend. But in the meantime, we saw yesterday some of that overextension start to materialize. And even though we didn't make it all the way to the top side of balance range, that would be approximately this swing high, which sits at about 417.87. We didn't quite make it there, but we made it back to VPOC. And this is a moment for the market to stall. It's the whole concept of getting back to value and having the market reassess whether it wants to continue its advance, potentially pull back in, retest some other value zones, or potentially, in the case of what we saw back in June, completely sell off, or just, sort of have that rejection and waterfall style approach to the downside. So a lot of our trade, and especially moving forward, until we get through this area, we need to be extremely cautious of what we saw back in June, which was more or less just days of downside gaps, getting bounce follow through, upside gaps into balance range highs, getting downside action, and ultimately just trading around these two price levels. They're well-established levels for the market, and we still need to respect them until we get through them. Obviously, the downside being that if we lose this area again, we can sell relatively quickly, mostly because we got up here just as fast. We didn't really set up a lot of great areas for the market to pause if we were to lose this area once again. So that downside target of just about 400 S&P would be very simple for the market to achieve. It pretty much would be a strong probability at that point. So just wanted to note these couples of levels. The reason I think that we're going to stay here for quite a while is we're seeing that topping action across the market. And I'm going to bring up a couple of key examples. You look at a stock like Tesla. Tesla had a great bull reaction to its earnings. It was a very simple breakout, back test, and continuation type play. And what you're noticing here is that we're starting to test the 200-day moving average. So far, we put in a pretty strong rejection signal and some decent volume yesterday, indicating that this area is notable. It's definitely a moment to stall the current rally. Now, does that mean that Tesla has to go straight down? No. But I will say that similar to the S&P, these trends right here don't leave a lot of room for downsides to be bought. They often are not very well structured for pullbacks to hold until we get down to things like our swing highs or even dipping back into our sort of consolidation ranges. Usually people will interpret that as short-term weakness, which is fair because it is, of course, a tradable event. But it's also a risk for the market. If Tesla were to pull back slightly, the S&P would obviously have a bit of a headwind in its name. Let's pull up some of our other key names, our Apple and our Microsoft, trading above the 200 period. But once again, noticing yesterday's trade, we didn't necessarily advance, nor did we put in some sort of strong rejection signal, simply a moment of pause. Stocks like Microsoft, very similar, clearing out of June and July consolidation, strong breakout so far. What we'd be looking for is we haven't really expanded enough to give a lot of confidence as to whether this has the strength to continue quite yet. I would even argue that Microsoft is a bit of a risk for a head fake. And usually this is up for whichever pivot provides the actual high end of your range that you're trying to break out from. If we're looking at swing lows and Microsoft and comparing some of the previous downside back in mid-June, I would argue that this is our range. There's a clear retest of the low, and this trade right here is not convincing enough to tell me that we expanded much further. If that's true, then this is our high. And if that is the case, Microsoft technically really hasn't gotten much farther than the range high end, which can lead to a false breakout. It can basically mean that because we got a bit extended, the pullback in can be as simple as coming to retest lower pivots and just coming in slightly to our full range, getting to a deeper value zone before continuing its move. This is all just short-term ideas for trade opportunity this week, along with assessing the market's location. We'll also note things like energy, which did have a bit of a choppy day overall last session, but we're getting a lot of that volatility back in regards to certain sessions, especially when energy is performing, are actually a bit of a net bearish signal for the overall market. We haven't quite seen what we used to saw. We haven't quite seen what we've used to seen, which is a day where energy is up, the rest of the market is down. That pure inverse correlation that we experienced a couple of months ago. But I would keep that correlation in the back of your mind. Any day where energy is performing, I would note that those days tend to be somewhat choppy, and they often are not high advancing days. Often we want to see continuation in our stronger sectors. You'll note that the last month, consumer discretionaries were a lead performer, along with technology. But this has to, of course, continue for the market to continue advancing. We need to see lots of good, pure sector rotation across strong S&P sectors to continue this rally. Otherwise, some of that sort of headwind approach can reoccur. And we're starting to see a little bit of fear for recessionary type sectors. I know this chart's a little busy, but ultimately what's been happening in the utility sector, strong gap up that has continued. This is a little bit of a fear trade in regards to a defensive positioning. We've also seen a little bit of real estate strength as well. Not necessarily that this is going to be a risk off zone for the market, but it tends to be an area of defensive positioning as well. So these short-term signals right now, we're getting some behavior that is counter the rally. It's definitely countering the strength we've seen across recovery sectors, the likes of tech, the likes of discretionary coming into resistance, very notable resistance here. For discretionaries, it's our secondary resistance. Tertiary was broken, secondary is being tested, primary is much higher. So there's certainly room for it to go. It's just a moment of pause. We want to be careful being bullish in a moment of pause, because failure at these levels puts us at a poor risk to reward for continuation. And then last but not least, financials. I think this is one to not really ignore any longer, because we are back into our trading channel. We got very overextended to the downside. And as I warned a couple of weeks ago, financials is no longer a short. We've come into our 200 period weekly moving average. From a technical sense, no one should be looking at this as a downside opportunity at this time until this bounces over. The reason being is it is a strong technical level that the market often has trouble breaking. And getting a signal to break that down is going to require work. It is often not going to be something breached on the first attempt. So be looking at this more as a long-term, very often respected moving average. This is an anchored level for the financial sector. Definitely not an area to be considering for downside until a bounce fades. We'd want to let this kind of fade itself out or get to an area where it's known to have downside opportunity. Something like the channel high, or even as simple as the balance range that we are discussing. So sector approach to this market is we have strength. There's strength in certain sectors. Tech, discretionary, financials are recovering, and the likes of some of our other strong names, things like communication, they're not selling, but they're not going up either. They're very choppy, usually indicative of a lot of stall. We're not getting clear bullish signals here yet, but it is a bit of a short-term rising channel. You'll kind of note the structure here of ups and downs. So all in all, these concepts of what is the market rallying on, is that rally starting to have some issues? And ultimately, what would the downside look like even if the trend was still intact? Be prepared for that, because a simple pullback in the market should be treated as an opportunity, but the pullback has to occur first. And if you're looking to buy or possibly put up bullish trade in this market, you may want to let that pullback actually form in your favor. Not to say that it has to, but it often gives better risk to reward, and it often allows you to assess your downside risk a little bit more clearly versus what we have seen in this range, which is potential for a complete collapse. Obviously, I'm not really looking at that scenario very appropriately at this point in time. We would need to see a breakdown once again and a clear rejection here before even considering it. So, notes from yesterday, I'll just kind of keep reiterating this. Corporate debt is on the rise in regards to a bullish move inside of HYG. I think this is still a good risk on, risk off type signal, whether you're short-term minded or you're looking at maybe some weekly price levels. Keep an eye on this, because we've had about 4 weeks of continuation. 3 weeks of continuation. Once again, it's a moment of pause. It's a moment where this market can stall. The risk on, risk off behavior can kind of change based on how this responds. I'd also be looking at the dollar. I think the dollar has been providing fuel for this rally. The pullback in the dollar is notable, but I also see this as a moment where we could see a return to some upside. It's an area that I'd be very cautious shorting dollar, and therefore I'd be very cautious longing equities. I'd also be looking at the metals because they're the ones that have responded the most clearly to this pullback. We're looking at things like gold hitting its main resistance. It's notable that these have already achieved their respective targets. Silver as well, very strong rally. I don't have the trend line here. There's a primary, and it looks as if there is a secondary about right there, which did break out. So all of these levels are moments of profit taking. They're moments of stall, and they're usually moments to kind of reassess. As traders, we may want to take that time as well. Think about what sort of risk profile do we have, and look at some of the signals that this market may be starting to shift a little bit. We've seen some volatility readings starting to pick up, very minute, but they're notable. Until they sort of pull back in, obviously there is the chance that this could start a stronger volatility reading. And we're also seeing plenty of movement in the bond market. If y'all have been following, I've been sort of a medium-term bull in long-term bonds. little bit of wording issue there, but bit of a bull in the TLT. Reason being is the market structure. I thought that interest rates had topped, and so far this is working out quite well. It's also hitting resistance, and as you can tell, we're starting to get that full reversal structure really coming in. So bonds are very likely to have topped out or bottomed out. Interest rates are likely to have topped out. Doesn't mean that we can't get some reversion. Obviously this breakdown is clear, but at this point we can easily back test, or we can do some things that can counter what has been driving price activity. You want to be thinking once again, if rates have been falling, there's been a little bit of re-interest in things like growth names. Some names that I'm kind of watching are things like Roku, which are hitting things like COVID low supports, monthly high, swing highs. It's just an area of interest. And this is, of course, coming off of multiple months of downside. So anything akin to a monthly bounce or just a monthly stall, these types of stocks are notable for that type of setup. You look at ARK as well, very similar, coming into the monthly lows. Lots of upside in just this very small range. You want to be thinking percentage gain for these types of stocks and for these types of opportunities. Even stocks like Upstart, which has had an absolutely poor reversion back to its all-time lows, but it is an area to watch. If there is any defense in this area, that is an opportunity. And with the nature of the market, things are going to start to become I would say more favorable depending on their price, depending on their respective location from a technical sense, and also just depending on the economic condition at the time. If rates are falling, potentially a little bit of speculation returning into the market overall and taking advantage of that short-term trade, even if it is very short-lived. So be looking for all that. Be looking for, I would say, moments of opportunity, not necessarily long-term positioning in some of these, but definitely some trade ideas. And also consider your bias. It's notable that people like to follow the trend. And I think that's the right mentality 80 to 90% of the time. The trend truly is your friend for a lot of things. But trades can get a little busy. They can get a little bit one-sided. And when you have too many people on one side of a trade, you can be looking for I would say, the response against it, or the fact that the market can shift And against those participants, you can get a lot of volatility in the opposite direction. It occurred in energy. Energy was probably our most notable reversion that we saw. And this is where something that was very bullish simply got too many people on one side of the trade, and it reverted. And it reverted quite quickly as well. These are opportunities, but you have to be ready for them, and you have to be identifying them as they're forming. So last but not least, I'm going to just quickly talk about a stock that's been on focus for a lot of traders. Do not necessarily consider this for your watch list, but there is a separate ticker that is trading today, and it might be an opportunity. Won't necessarily show up on all scanners, but it's in relation to HKD, which has had, from a price perspective, a monster run. It's up multiple thousands of percent over the course of a couple of days. And obviously, a lot of traders are looking at that and foaming at the mouth. Anyone who's been looking at the level 2 intraday knows that this is not just an easy buy and hold type of trade. There's lots of liquidity issues. This thing is halting anywhere from 5 to 10 times intraday. And it's simply not a normal trading stock. The percentage movement is out of the ordinary due to the fact of the float and the ownership by this particular company, which is AMTD. Now, this is obviously trading intraday as well. It's got a really great pre-market. And what I'm sensing today is that a lot of trade is starting to shift away from HKD and coming into this parent ticker. I would agree that a lot of traders are going to be looking at this as a main momentum focus today. Keep in mind the risk profile for HKD, even though it doesn't necessarily have the same characteristics in this stock. You want to be thinking about halt risk. You want to be thinking about news and volatility risk if anything does occur. And of course, just trade this one with rules. Pullback trading, break of high of day kind of momentum style, just using level 2 signals. Keep it simple in this one. Don't necessarily get drawn into the FOMO around HKD. And I think you'll still find great success, albeit there is a higher risk profile on this particular stock. So I wanted to bring that one up because it is moving quite well. The assessment, though, is that the risk of this stock can come in the form of similar liquidity issues for HKD, along with traders just being a little fearful, knowing what has started to occur with HKD. It's certainly looking to top out today. Even if it goes a bit higher, I would sort of assess that this is probably about to hit a relative top near 1,000. So, all right. So with all that said, my name is Jared. This is Engineering the Market. Stay tuned for pre-market prep. Trade extremely safe today, especially if you're entering into this realm. And as always, stay tuned for Carlos and Norm with more information.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to PreMarket Prep. I hope everyone's having an amazing morning. Hopefully, you guys had an incredible day yesterday. Good morning, Norm. How you doing today?
Good morning, brother. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good, my friend. Doing good. Um, all right, guys. Let's get into it. Let's look at some of the stocks we had in play yesterday, and then we'll come back and look at our gappers list this morning, which is extremely active, as you can see here. A lot of stuff in the green, a lot of stuff in the red as well. So, a bunch of earnings also on this list. So, definitely, I think we'll find some good stuff to watch today. So, interesting times there in the gappers list and in the overall market. Norm will get to that in just a second. But our gappers list from yesterday, we had BA on deck, we had AMD, Roku, Apple, Baba, Tesla, and Amazon. And it was really a great list. I don't think you needed to go anywhere else as far as stocks to watch. Let's start here with BA this morning. Let's look at our 5 minute and we can see the action there. Let's zoom into yesterday, which would be right over here. So I'm going to include some of the pre-market action because we did see BA be very active yesterday. Had a nice gap up, did give you a tough time at the open, especially with these wicks. Look at the how big the pop was, and just the retracement on these pops were very aggressive. Eventually, an hour in, I mean, a half hour in, it does settle down. If you see right on here, you start to get a candle that actually finishes green, not a huge pullback or dip on this one. And then you get into this beautiful continuation. So, yes, you might have missed this break of towards the high of the day, but this one here, very nice setup, retesting this 168 level that we had. So that was a pre-market high, and you can see how well that traded after that. So BA had been having some positive news. They did very well yesterday. Many of you guys in the community took this trade here, guys. A beautiful engulfing pattern here right at the open, and look how great AMD trades after that. Just takes off nicely, never really looks back, does break the high of the day here at 97 and gets you over to 98.50. So again, just a nice beautiful pop. I did hear some comments where people traders left some money on the table. It happens, right? You just never know how much this is going to run. But AMD very nice yesterday. Here's a Roku. Roku was just on fire, and I'm pissed I missed this move because I was saying how I thought Roku was very extended overreaction on the gap down yesterday. And look at this, guys. Nothing happening in the pre-market, which is typical for Roku, and then just the explosion here and goes all the way from 65 guys to 72.61. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. I would have been chasing it in a bad situation. But here, guys, does trade very well. Just incredible pop. Then after this move here in the morning, it does go sideways a bit. I mean, this was the action yesterday on Roku, and that did very nice there.
Go
Here's
sideways
Apple.
after an hour and a half straight up.
Yeah, exactly. Sideways. It's like, okay, we're done. The rest of the day we could just chill. Here's Apple. Apple gave you some explosive action at the open, a little bit choppier towards the top end here, and then this beautiful drop around noon, guys. You see it right back exactly to the low of the day there. So you got some pretty good opportunities. It's just this stretch here was not fun. So if you were having a hard time there, again, it was just going sideways for the most part. Baba was garbage yesterday, guys. Shouldn't have been on my list. Was great the day before, but yesterday was just garbage. It didn't really do anything. Uh, very wacky price action. Just nothing to see there. Tesla, you know what? Although this looks as a good sell-off, again, the pullbacks on Tesla were tough yesterday. It was very difficult to trade. You have to be very careful with this. When your entry had to be really good to survive some of the pullbacks. So again, not as clean as we saw the day before. Still a very good mover, but definitely not as clean. And then here we have Amazon, which also gave you a nice pop after kind of trying to figure out what it wanted to do the first 15 and 20 minutes. Then from there, it does take off pretty nice there. And again, similar sell-off like we had on Apple as well, right? We Apple had this nice sell around noon on Amazon also. So again, just a lot to see. I'm not even going to get to our secondary list. There were some good ones in here too. Just a lot in play yesterday. Overall, Norm, what do we have for the market today?
Well, we've got some political stuff that's obviously going to have a large bearing on what's going on. As far as economic stuff, I'll hit that first. JOLTS data at 10 a.m. is going to be the significant number of the day. The Fed is looking to slow employment but through their actions with rate policy and other measures. And that JOLTS number, which is job openings and labor turnover survey, that will give an indication of Is there a slowdown in hiring? Or, one thing we've spoken about is just like people can't find people to work. So many jobs are open, everything else. Is that going to start slowing down as interest rates raise and the economy slows a little bit? So, we'll see what happens there. The other numbers, I mean, they are what they are. The vehicle sales, that'll be big for the auto companies, Teslas, all that for sure. Now, to the political part.
Oh, yeah.
That everybody's been speaking about as we speak. Nancy Pelosi's plane is just southeast of Manila. Headed, I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Let's see if I can get this on the screen.
Yep, we see it. Hold on, let me.
It's no, it's not going to focus on it properly. No. Anyway, this is Taiwan up here. They are now heading straight for it, going across the coast of the Philippines. We'll see what transpires over the next few hours as they. It's a decoy. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's not going to be fun. I mean, we went through something like this at a very smaller scale, right? With Russia and Ukraine. As far as it affecting us here, this could be a whole different ballgame, Norm. I mean, hopefully it's not.
I tend to think that it's not going to be anything.
I'm hoping
too crazy
for everyone. Yeah.
I don't think it'll be too crazy. I think China's trying to scare us. The fact of the matter is the legislative branch of the government has been traveling to Taiwan for quite a long time. Now, the speaker hasn't been since, I believe, 97. So she's the highest person in the U.S. government, been there since 97. The difference between now and then is China obviously has a much stronger military than it did in the 90s. So they can back up what they say a little bit more. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see, man. It's gonna be interesting for sure, and it sucks because our market is starting to kind of rally here a little bit. This is gonna put a slowdown for sure because now you start to get into the indecision side of things, right? And we see what indecision can do to our market. Investors don't like it, traders don't like it, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, it's nothing, and it's just comes down and it goes away, but you never know. Guys, let's get to our gappers list this morning. So again, close eye on that, guys. Keep close eye on that news.
Yeah, keep a close eye on that. Keep your squawk on. Listen for news in case anything comes up, in case anything happens. Yesterday when the stuff was coming up and being discussed, and some words were going back and forth, we saw some pretty drastic moves in the SPY that were caused just out of nowhere from that situation. So just know that could shake you out. Don't get married to your position or your trade.
Absolutely. All right, guys, let's take a look at what we have going on here. Let's start with our gap up list this morning. Leading the way here, we have a low flow QNRX. This one's up 52%. Pre-market action doesn't look good. And again, we don't like these. When you have this low flow where you pop up and then start selling off like this is no fun. So again, just in the volume too, 486,000. No. This is not gonna be on our list. Not the way we want to start this day. Let's head over to pins. Pins this morning, we're getting some activity, up 18% on pins. Wow. Earnings, Norm, I missed this one.
Yeah, they had earnings last night. They've got some upgrades starting up this morning. So Wow.
The one thing we'll warn you about pins is that even with this, it can still trade so choppy. We've seen that it do that before plenty of times, but nevertheless, they are in play today. Great volume, nice gap up this morning.
They've been beaten down with all the other social media stuff. So but their numbers not being quite as bad as the rest popped them up this morning.
Yeah. Any news that's not catastrophic is going to be positive at this point, right? How much they've been beating down. Here's Uber, guys, up 13.5, so doing very well. This earning report here, 5.6. Definitely in play. I make another one that again, it could be a hit or miss, Norm. We've seen this stock plenty of times when it's been in this situation, whether a news catalyst or earnings, and it disappoints more often than not, right? So it looks like they did well this morning. We'll add them to our
Yeah, they're
list.
doing pretty well. It's their first quarter that they have had of positive cash flow. So, helping them out this morning. I think their revenues were a little bit more than expected. They did have a one-time charge that was quite large, caused their EPS to be well under estimates. But a lot of times when you have those one-time events, people don't really factor that in because it's not something that's going to come up again. But yeah, getting a nice pop this morning. They're like, as you mentioned, not the greatest day trading ticker typically, so we don't always follow it. This is shaping up to be one of those days where it would be the anomaly a couple of days a year.
Yep, I agree. Here is Getty, GETY, and again, not a great trader. We've seen this thing just kind of take off in the last couple of days. I'm not a fan of what's happening here at all, so I'm gonna stay away from this guy. It's very, very risky. This flow says 65 million. I don't agree with that. I think it could be worse. But again, just be very careful on this one. Uber, we looked at CONW.
Yeah, COWN. This is Cowen Investment Bank. They do a lot of times. We'll be talking about upgrades and downgrades, and they're Cowen. It's being bought out. So
okay, so buyout. Nothing to see here. VRAX. This thing has been so active the last couple of days. I mean, talk about a risky ticker. Here's one. Up 7.6 this morning. This thing had a wild day. Was it last week here, the 29th? Again, just very, very careful with this thing, guys. I won't be touching this. Just too risky for my taste there. Here is Lyft. So Lyft earnings too, Norm. I missed my notes there. I don't know.
Sympathy. Earnings on Lyft, I believe, is on Thursday.
Okay. All right.
I could be wrong, but I think it's Thursday.
Yeah. So getting a little bit of a positive reaction based on Uber. Obviously, their competitor there. But the one to watch today would be Uber. And Lyft is the same way, guys. It's also another one that for some reason they just don't trade intraday trade well. I just don't know what it is. Great ticker, very well known, gets the volume, Uber especially, but they just don't trade well. Here's Revlon up 5.1. We had looks like a bang up day yesterday for it. This thing ran up. This is after hours. No, this is at like 1:30 in the afternoon here. It just took off. Any news, Norm, on this that's causing this reaction?
Yeah, they had a court approved a bankruptcy loan. This is also a meme ticker. So when you start talking about bankruptcy, I start running.
Yes. Yeah. Some people are enjoying that bankruptcy catalyst and taking advantage of that there. But again, it's more of a meme stock, so be very careful with it. PGI, also another horrible stock. Pre-market action doesn't look great. The daily somehow manages to look interesting. But if you look under the hood there, it is just so bad. Volume is horrible. This is yesterday's action. You can see here how choppy this is, and just the volume very light. What we're doing, a 15 million. Again, just be careful with that. BP, more of a foreign stock. It is actually up nicely today, 3.1. Last couple of days been stringing a nice couple of a nice run here. So maybe you can do something today, but again, for the most part, not the best intraday ticker. Dash is Dash is another one too that it can be horrible to trade. The volume is just so light on this ticker. So you're going to miss some of that volatility and just fluidity that you want to see. MPC, no. MPC is no good. There's nothing happening there. All right, let's see what's gapping down. Wow, this entire list, we only like two, Pins and Uber. And even those two are not ideal. So can't tell you what kind of day we're setting up for here.
You can instantly skip over the top two on here. Those appear to be, because DAS shows no volume on those, even though it has 140,000, 137 with huge gaps. They're showing, it looks like trades recorded from a couple days ago, because all that 137 523 volume and 145.57 is a block trade at a much lower price, so it really hasn't dropped.
Yeah, so not really in play, guys. Let's go ahead right straight into Snow. And Snow, we've seen on our list plenty of times gapping up or down. Talk about a ticker. Man, today the list of tickers that trade horrible, that intraday trade just brutal. This is another ticker that the intraday action on this is wild. Their spread is pretty bad at times. And what happens is, guys, you have a stock that's at 140, 160 pricing, right? you're trading 8 million shares a day, but you're moving, right? With that 8 million, you're moving from 164 to 144. So think about now spreading that 8.4 million shares around all that price action. You're going to get some very nasty spread, nasty moves. It's just not going to be ideal for the way we trade. So let's head on down to something better, Tablespoon. And this one here up down 5%, 670,000. Again, another one that's a low flow that's just very wild. It's funny, someone in chat yesterday mentioned that they love Tablespoon, right? They've been doing very good on TBLT. And, it all depends on your trading style. If this is it, then yeah, but absolutely, definitely not my cup of tea there. Cat this morning, Cat looks interesting,
Earnings.
down 4.2, right? 120. I like this drop. I mean, they're not the best, but this drop looks a little bit interesting. It's just, can they get the volume at the market open, right? I don't know. Let's see. XPEF this morning, we are down 4.2, but not really much volume at the moment. Billy, pretty quiet so far. SCHW, no, not doing a whole lot there. PDD, no. Baba, all right, let's see Baba. What we got for us? Okay, it's good pre-market action, down 3.5, 600,000. All right, we got something to play with here. This could be interesting. Let's see there. Baba continues to just get crushed here. Not fun. FTCH, another one that's a no. AVTR, nope.
You're
Neo,
gonna start hitting a lot of Chinese
here.
stocks right there. And well, no, I'm just saying you got a lot of Chinese stocks sitting right there, and they're involved in this geopolitical issue.
Yes, because that could definitely will affect them even more. First, even before us here. Neo is interesting, guys. It got a little bit of volume. I like where we're sitting here for a possible test of 1875. That could be interesting. I haven't looked at Neo in a long time, but let's see if today's the day. LI is okay. TSM also getting affected. Obviously, a Taiwanese semiconductor. We were talking about this yesterday as well. This could be interesting to watch today. Again, just depending how news breaks out. Shopify, not really in play. No action. Mara, no volume. DD, nothing going on there. All right, guys. Slim pickings today. Norm, what do you like this morning?
I'm going to point out two tickers that Jared already mentioned that are going absolutely insane.
Oh, yeah. HD something.
HKD and AMTD. And I'm going to tell you right now, I wouldn't touch them with my worst enemy's account because the risk involved in those. Yes, in retrospect, it looks awesome. Like, throw in $10 and retire the next day. Like, have more than the one guy that won the lottery 2 days ago. But just not worth it, guys.
I mean, it's timing. It's timing. You are gambling for sure. And now that everybody's looking at it, it's probably the worst time to think about a stock like this. It's just, I mean, look at this. How do you trade this? Has traded under a million
these are
shares.
YOLO trades for sure.
Yeah, yesterday it traded 450,000 shares, and it went from 282 to 800. How does that happen? Guys, I don't even want this on my list.
The spread's $55 on HKD right now.
I don't even want this on my list. All right. And what was the other one, Norm, you mentioned? There was another one that was
AMTD. That's the parent company.
So what's going on with these, by the way?
I frankly don't even know. I don't want to know. It's
you don't even want to be.
They're out of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Their ADRs. I don't know what the news is. I frankly don't care.
You don't want to be persuaded anyway. You don't want to.
No, exactly. I don't want
to. Like, that's a good catalyst.
I'm scared to even type these into my montage when it's locked.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna put these on my watch list, guys. I don't care what's happening. I agree with you, man. This is dangerous. AMTD does look a little bit better. This seems to have some kind of volume and flow to it. But that other HKD, no way. So,
but this thing could still literally. I mean, and this thing could drop back to like $8 in probably 20 seconds. If it wanted
easily.
To,
oh, yeah. It's
well, we might just see it happening. It's starting to drop right now.
It is up 400. And when's the last time you saw a stock up 450%, Norm?
I mean, we've seen it, but it's not common.
Oh yeah, it is insane. So guys, be very careful with that. All right, let's see anything else, Norm, that you actually want to watch.
No, man.
No.
I'm gonna sit back. If anything, I'll probably look at some QQQ,
Yeah.
TQQQ. If it's not a whole lot of, I want to play it safe with what's going on geopolitically. So
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. Let's take a look over here, guys. BA dropping. Yeah, I have BA on my list because I thought I had them on here. Oh no, I have Bob on my list. No, BA we didn't put on the list. We looked at it. Dropping. Oh yeah, you're getting a little bit of action here. We'll put BA on deck, see what goes on there. Oxy and AMC. Let's take a look there. Here is Oxy. I see you like Fabio. The possible breakout on the daily, right? Possible breakout of this 66 level looks like 66, 23 maybe. Yeah, that looks interesting. I don't see it great right now, but it does look pretty good for a possible breakout. AMC, same thing. You're looking for a breakout here, hopefully. AMC just gotta wait for the volume. Right now, the volume is not there. But again, it's one of those stocks that you really gotta be having the scanners ready to go. But for the most part, low volume right now. It's just not looking too aggressive at the moment. Let's take a look at AMD. I saw someone mentioned this earlier, and AMD is always a good one to watch. They're up 1.3 right now, 465,000.
AMD or
Oh no,
AMC? Because
sorry,
you got both
AMD.
up.
AMD. Here we go.
There you
So
go.
daily looks good here. I mean, we're up nicely on it. Actually, we're down, but the trend on this thing is pretty good at the moment. We were down even further. We come back a little bit. So I like AMD, guys. We closed the gap a few days ago, the last two trading days. So that's been nice. I think this will be a whole lot of fun, guys. And we had an incredible day right here on AMD. That was a lot of fun. So let's see what it does. Makes me want to look at NVIDIA as well. Let's look at NVIDIA, and then we'll look at Apple, our usual suspects. NVIDIA, light volume, but again, that can get going, but I'm not going to add it to the list yet. It's not looking explosive. Apple, I will add to our list. 1.5 million shares traded right now. And again, just the daily on both Apple and AMD looking real nice for a possible continuation here. So I like what I'm seeing there on both of these. All right, let's take a look. What else? Anything else, guys? AMD is good. MDB, what is this? MDB, no.
MongoDB.
Ooh,
Doesn't
scary
it's
stuff.
not intraday. It's not a
Yeah,
very good intraday trader, really.
yeah. Very light volume, guys. Under 2 million for the most part. INTC had the big gap down a few days ago. Yesterday they seemed to kind of close that gap a little, try to get going here. It could be a hit or miss. This could be a good possible if he wants to try to close this gap to 39. But the likelihood of this, you know what? No, I'm not gonna add it. Because I know I'm not gonna trade it. I know it's gonna probably trade horrible. So I'm probably not gonna watch that one. AMD earnings today. Yeah, so tonight will probably be a whole lot of fun, and then tomorrow we'll see a high trades tomorrow. All right. All right, guys. Again, let's not push. We have a couple of things here that look okay. We just got to hope Pins and Uber, Bob, and some of these are actually moving, can trade very well because they could be a big hit or miss, more often than not. So let's see if they can prove us wrong today. You never know. Let's head over to our website and take a look at our webinars that are coming up for this week and next. If we go right over here, guys, webinars at the top, you'll see what's happening.
Every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, you've got onboarding technology with Carlos. So hook up with him every Monday night, 8 p.m., especially if you're new. Give you a tour of the community and best way to get started. Tuesday nights, we've got strategy. Tonight, 5 p.m., note the special time. We've got Eamon talking about how to read price action through candlestick patterns. And then next week, Thor, 8 p.m. Eastern, understanding the components of a trading system. Wednesday is psychology. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., you've got Dr. Kenneth Reed talking about habits versus rules. And then following week, Creta, 5 p.m. as well, special time because of her time zone, putting the mental edge pieces together. Thursdays, you've got mentorship, 11 a.m. with John, 4 p.m. with Ed, which includes after-hours trading on earnings, if there are any. Thor at 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget about StockTradingSimulator.com, our free web-based replay simulator. Go to StockTradingSimulator.com to check it out 24/7. PreMarket 24, if you're looking to check out the room you haven't been in before, you can use the promo code PreMarket 24. Just go to BearBullTraders.com, scroll down halfway down the homepage roughly. You'll see the membership category chart on the left-hand side. You'll see that intro. Use PreMarket 24 when you sign up. It is not a recurring payment. It only charges you one time It gives you 7 calendar days in the room, 5 trading days, after which you have to choose a different membership category. And if you'd like access to all of the webinars we're just discussing, you can use the promo code READ50. That'll get you half off the Elite Annual membership and a free one-on-one coaching session with Dr. Reed.
All right. Thank you, Norm, very much for that. All right, guys. So, yeah, that's good. Did I just switch? Yeah, I did. All right, so let's get to it, guys. Here we don't have a crazy blockbuster list today, but we got some things we can watch. And I expect as the market starts moving, there's some other usual suspects that will be in play today, right? Our
Just
AMD,
be careful today, guys.
our Apple. Yes, one of those days that if you've been on a hot streak and you probably increase your risk a little bit because that does happen, right? Maybe today pull it back a little bit, right? Just kind of be careful with the way you manage your risk today. It's going to be one of those crazy days. I think it's going to be more on the choppier side. Besides these big ones that are up nicely, like pins 18%, Uber 13.4. I think we're going to get some decent movement out of those there. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Guys, before I forget, actually, we do have, I want to remind you today at 3:30 p.m., we do have the closing bell, and we're going to have a special guest today. He's done a webinar for us before. It is Dr. Gary Dayton. And if you haven't seen his webinar, I want to show you something awesome. If you come over here to our website, to our education center for those members, if you click on this little hat here, this search bar allows you to search specific webinars. So for example, if you come in here, you put Gary Dayton, you can see the webinar that he did for us back in January 2021. Amazing webinar, guys. If you haven't seen this, try to watch it throughout the day today before he comes on. You can watch it after, it's perfectly fine. But it kind of gives you an idea of what he's like as a trader and a psychologist. So this webinar was amazing. A trader's mental blind spot, how hidden flaws in decision making affect your trading. It is really, really good. So definitely check it out if you haven't done so already. He's going to be on with Artie today in the closing bell. So don't miss that. I expect that to be a lot of fun. I got to preview some of the questions and topics they're going to be talking about. It should be very interesting. Yeah. So don't miss that. All right, guys, let's get to some levels. Let's get to some levels here. And then if we have time towards the end, we can look at more tickers as well. Let's see. Is Carlos Amos webinar up today? I think he's on vacation. No, he's back already. I believe he's back and he's ready to rock and roll today. So if not, trust me, we probably would have changed that already by now. All right, guys, here's pins. So pins, again, very active right now, up huge, 18.4, messy pre-market action, which is typical pins activity. It usually does that. I'm hoping that this thing can give us something today. I mean, I'm a little more short bias on this because this seems like a little bit of an overreaction just because they got some positive news. But we'll see how it goes. We have 23.53 here. We have 24. 24.30, high of the pre-market, low of the pre-market there, and it's just been bouncing back within this range here on pins. Let's go to the left, see what we were slamming up against here. So this is our range right in here that we're in, highs and lows of the pre-market at the moment, right? Outside of that, towards the bottom, a very clear level of support and resistance right on here. If you could see that 22.07, that's a good one. We do have in between here, I want to say it looks like we might have something around 22, might be 23. Let me mark it down. I'll zoom in a second. So we'll mark that down. But it looks like we might have something here at 23. So I'm going to throw that level in there as well as a good one towards the bottom to kind of fill that gap up. Towards the top, we do have 25.63 right over here. Clear level support and resistance. Look at the support action you're getting there. And then just one more towards the top. Again, this will be a stretch if we can move another $3 to the north side. But if we do, we're ready, right? We're ready. 26.66, a great level there as well. You can see the ping pong action happening right here. So that's pins for you guys. I think you're pretty much set when it comes to the levels on this one. If we zoom into today's action, well, we're surrounded by some pretty good daily levels towards the top and the bottom there, being supported very well towards the left side. So let's hope today's going to be a good day for these guys. They're gapping up pretty decent. And again, they can move. It's just, they can be very choppy at times. So we'll see what happens there on pins today. I expect today will be one of their higher trading days as far as volume. So already at 1.2 million shares traded. Here is Uber, guys. Again, it's one of these tickers that is just so brutal. I mean, they could do so well. They got the volume, 6.7. They got the gap up of 12.8. They got the news catalyst, which is doing well. They just got to deliver here with some good price action, and they tend not to do that. So 28.56 high of the pre-market. We do have this level here from a couple of days ago over at 26.69. And you can see on the daily, you know how we talk about a good daily, a bad daily. You can see here how every candle seems to just kind of overlap the previous one. And this happens to some stocks at some point, right? Happens to AMD, happens to Apple, but they break out of it very quickly. And when they do run, they look nice. When this one breaks out, look what happens. There's some candles here that just look horrible. There's just nothing going on. And that typically translates to not so pretty, not so clean intraday action. Towards the bottom of 26.70, 26.69, I don't see a whole lot here. I do see 25 might be a minor area of support and resistance. 25.53, I'm going to slam a level there just so we have something there ready to go. Above 28.56, since we're holding between these two at the moment, if we're looking to run even higher, although we are already up 12.8, but if we want some more action on this towards the top side, 30.26, it's a good area there. You can see a little bit of support happening there. Not a whole lot going on here. This is not significant at the moment. Just look out for 29 and obviously 30. The whole dollar numbers are going to be more important than this actually here. And then slightly above that, this will be just in case we really get going here. 31.59, a very clean level of support that you're having there. A little bit of resistance, but more support than anything right in this area. So again, that has a lot of touches. And go to the left here, you can see 30.26 continues to be a good support there as well for this area. And then the next big one is going to be this pre-market high, 28.56, because we skip 30.26, we go right to 28.56, right? So in between here, still not a good level of major support or resistance, right? So we'll keep those two. Let's see if there's any strength left for Uber after gapping up nicely this morning. So here's Baba. Will be interesting. Let's get some of these older levels out of the way. We're going to be looking at 87.01, the low of the pre-market. Towards the bottom, we're looking at 81.23, and then down here we'll be looking at 78.08 as far as levels go. And then right between here, we got a good one too, actually, 84.84. Nice level there, support and resistance across the board. So that is Baba towards the bottom. Towards the top, you're pretty set. Highs and lows for the last two trading days. They got some volume today, but their action, again, could be a little bit messy this morning. They have gapped down quite a bit and ran pretty well a few days ago. I just don't know how much down movement we have here on Baba. So we'll keep a close eye on that one. Here is BA. Started to move, so we put it on the list. We are getting some action. It needs a little bit of more time, so we'll come back to it. As far as levels, we're not going to go crazy with this. Our low of the pre-market is right here at 165.01, and then the high of the pre-market is slightly below the low of the previous day, close at 168.42. So I'm just going to put those levels on there. If this doesn't get more volume, I'm going to drop it down. We had a spike in here. Somebody dropped a nice big order, 25,000 shares. But then we died down after that. So let's see if anything is going to continue to take place here. Hello, Andrew's in the chat. Andrew's trading from his mobile station. Where's Andrew now? Where are you located? I know he's traveling today. He's going to try to trade live if his connection allows him to do that. So let's hope that he can do that here. Friends, Chamonix. All right, nice. I'm sure I did not say that properly, but Andrew will correct us when he comes to the mic. AMD here, guys, looking very good. And as someone mentioned in the chat, AMD never disappoints, Mike. I agree. AMD is such a great stock to watch. A good action this morning, 1.4. I loved it, how clean the daily is, right? We talk about clean, just the way the movement. Look how beautiful this movement is here, right? So that is looking very nice there. We're going to mark down 95.03, which is the low of the pre-market. Top of the pre-market is actually above the pre-market, the previous day close right over here. But that is not as important as this is right here, right? I prefer to have this level marked down on 96.30 or so, because we're obviously seeing a lot of action in this area. And we're going to come up to this pretty soon. I guarantee we're going to have a little struggle there, because that's what has happened in the past two times we hit that 96.34 area. So I'd rather have that. The pre-market high over here is not as important, because here you have the previous day close. So this is going to be king compared to this pre-market high there, sitting there on its own. So as far as daily levels, you're set, guys, highs and lows. So rounding the price action, we were kind of smack in the middle of it. I don't think you need to add anything else. We'll be looking for AMD to break one way or the other. It's going to need the SPY's help today. And hopefully, again, these political issues kind of, die down. We do not need to go through another situation like we had in just a recent past here, right? 159.55 is good. And then towards the top, below of the pre-market, we do have high of the pre-market. Same thing here, guys, pretty close to the previous day close. This area here for Apple is going to be more important, a lot more important, 160.36. I'm going to mark that down instead, because again, the few times we slammed against that, you could see the resistance happening there as well. Very similar to AMD. Towards the top, you got plenty highs and lows of the last 2 trading days. I'm going to mark down 157.58, a good level here, in case we do decide to drop. That's a nice level, but we have some resistance that can now become support. All right, guys, Chamonix. Sounds good. Chamonix. Thank you. Sky, hopefully I pronounced it correctly. Pins, Uber, Baba, BA, AMD, and Apple, all good to go, guys. That's what we have on deck at the moment. We have again, not a blockbuster list, because we know some of these can trade pretty shady. Pins, it's up nicely, but it can be so brutal and so choppy. Uber is another one that's up nicely, but can just be so choppy. So just be mindful of that, especially at the market open, right? That first half hour on these 2 tickers can be brutal. So if you find yourself stopping out a couple of times, just take a break and just kind of zoom out, look at the big picture, look at something else, and see what's taking place there. All right. With that said, guys, we're all set. Anybody has any questions? Anything we want to get into this morning? But if not, we are good to go. I'll wait for our moderators to throw their tickers out to see what they're looking at today, and we can jump on that. Robbie was in our class yesterday, on our onboarding class, and we had a good time yesterday on the onboarding class, guys. If you missed it, well, we went actually an hour and a half, because everybody just stayed on and we just kept talking and went from this to this to that, and we went an hour and a half. So over on YouTube, if you haven't joined us for one of these onboarding class, please do so. The first hour we talk about the community. The second half, the half hour after that, we get into questions, and we went deep yesterday into a lot of risk management and trading and things that take place. So definitely join us for that. Neo, let's look at Neo from Robbie. Yeah, Neo, I have Neo as a positive now, Robbie. I think it can be a good one. It all depends how things are going to trade today. I haven't watched Neo in a while because it's been pretty choppy for the most part. But today, with all the news going on, I think it's a good one to keep an eye on. They're down 2.8. So I have it as a positive just in case we can get something going here. Anything else? What else you guys like? No IPOs and no SPACs being reported by Peter this morning. So that's looking pretty light there. And what do we have here? All right, Mike. Thank you so much, Mike, for the super chat. So Mike here is AMD price target 100,000 after hours. You are betting on earnings, my friends, huh? You are betting on earnings there. So let me see here. So thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that. Let's go over here. Where is our? I think this is it there. Yeah, so thank you much for the $5 bomb. I appreciate that. We haven't seen that in a while, that green donation there. So thank you for that. How is your beers only doing, Carlos? Let's not even get started with that. How is my beers only page doing? I better get it up and running depending how things go here with the tensions with the US and China. I better get my onlys page up and running for beers only. Carlos, Amazon was great yesterday. Had great action. Had has some good activity. It's Amazon is setting up pretty nice though, guys, right? It has not put in the best daily, but look at this little island we're just sitting on here, right? So it gapped up pretty nice. It's been holding here, hasn't really decided what it wants to do. It'll be a good one to watch and keep on deck. I think it's a great possible. Right now, it's not showing us anything that's like, oh, we gotta have this on deck, right? Maribah, but I think this one is it's one to keep a close eye on, to say the least. Today, eyes on the SPY, absolutely. The SPYs will be a good one to watch here, getting a little bit of a bounce, and this is what we want to see, guys. We want to continue on this momentum. Eventually we got to have pullbacks, healthy pullbacks like this one here, this one here, this one here. Hopefully that's it, and we start, continue to climbing northeast here, because that's going to help a lot of stocks, a lot of people's 401k, people's moods. Andrew talks about this. People feel better when the stock market is doing better. People feel good. They can, start spending again. And, it's just, We need that to happen. So hopefully that continues there. JBLU, is that JetBlue? I'm not a fan of JetBlue. Out of all the airlines, JetBlue is probably my least favorite. I prefer American Airlines when they are in play, and they have to be in play with heavy volume, which is not right now. And even United, for swing trading, United is pretty good at times, but even now, there's not a whole lot of volume going on with these. So that's my thing. I don't think I have ever traded JetBlue. I know that they just did the purchase go through of Spirit Airlines. I know they're purchasing them for a whopping
No,
4.6.
they're trying to.
Oh, it hasn't gone through yet?
It's highly doubtful that it'll get through regulatory stuff.
Yeah, they're pushing, man. They want that so bad. I was reading up on it, and it's just interesting. And the only reason they want them is because they want the gates in California that Spirit has. That's the only reason why they want that airline. There's no other reason besides
It's
that.
funny how all that works out.
Yeah, I did not know that every airport has limited gates, obviously, but for you, JetBlue cannot just go in there and just get gates, and that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So expand over there. All right, guys, we're pretty much set. Here's our moderators lineup. Coming up, we do have a few people on here. I'm going to go ahead and resize this. Let's go ahead and disable this video so you guys don't get the mirror effect. And over on YouTube, if you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up. We're sitting at 158 likes. Our goal is 300, 250 as the minimum. If you could help us there, man, that'd be great. I'm gonna bring this over. Let's bring in our moderators lineup and see what we have going on for today. What people are watching. Megan is back. Megan, I see your watch list there. Welcome back. Let's bring this over
Dream
here.
Chaser says, "LOL, I'm actually trading from an airport right now. Spirit Gate." Dream Chaser, I want to know, does Spirit charge you extra to trade from their gate?
Right? Oh, Spirit. I have never flown Spirit, but I have some friends that have, and
Oh yeah, I've heard stories.
they told me they lucky they got on the plane and landed or something. That's how bad it is. Here's the list, guys. We're looking at DEMA, pins, AMD, Amazon, and Apple. Peter will be looking at AMD, Apple, pins, secondary list, Cat, Uber, and Baba. Susan, AMD, Apple, Cia, Cat, Roku, and the secondary list, Meta on her list there. Megan, welcome back. We'll be looking at Roku and pins, and Jared, AMD, Amazon, pins, secondary list, Roku, UPST, and AMTD there. So pretty good stuff there. Roku, did we look at? Roku is going to be interesting. We didn't look at it today because they're probably not hitting our gap up or gap down. But they had an incredible day yesterday. So yeah, I like Roku too. I'm going to add that to our list, and that will call it. All right, guys, 9:15. Andrew and Brian are up next, trading live. Remember, today, closing bell, guys, with Dr. Gary Dayton. And as I mentioned before, if you haven't seen him, his webinar, take a look over his webinar. You can look at it, Trader's Mental Blind Spot. It's going to be a good one. We will see you guys later at 3:30 in chat over on YouTube. So thank you so much for the likes, 192. Appreciate that very much, guys. Take care and trade safe.
Take care, guys. Trade safe. Just remember, anything can happen with what's going on geopolitically.
Yeah, and
be ready to exit a trade if it starts going against you fast.
Playtime says, Andrew, can you look at HKD? Oof. I can't wait to hear his thoughts in the chat here on that ticker.
I wonder, did he pack his low float garbage shirt to take to France?
I hope he did. Today will be a good day to wear it. All right, guys, take care.
Take care, guys. Trade safe.